I'm Allison Cruz here in Amelia County in Jetersville, and I'm for the soil.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeff Ishii, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of For the Soil, a Conversation. Before we get to this week's episode, I would like to remind everyone, I think we all need to kind of go back to basics every once in a while. And the basics here with For the Soil are the 4 core principles of soil health. Number 1, keep soil covered. Number 2, minimize soil disturbance. Number 3, maximize living roots. And number 4, energize with diversity. You can find more about these 4 core principles of soil health at our website, forthesoil.org. That's the digit 4, thesoil.org. Now let's get to this week's podcast. Welcome to another episode of For the Soil Conversation. I'm Jeff Ishii, and joining me, my co-host, Dr. Eric Benfelt with Virginia Cooperative Extension, Community Viability. And Dr. Benfelt, we've got a very special guest today. Would you do the honors of introducing our guest?
Yes, Jeff, I'm pleased to have a colleague, Rebekah Slabach, with us. Rebekah's an extension agent in Halifax County, and does a lot of work with farmers in that area on a variety of enterprises, and has also been involved with some soil health research and demonstration. So we're pleased to have Rebekah with us. And Rebekah, if you could just share a little bit more background about yourself and how you got interested in extension and working with farmers.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Halifax County, so the county that I live and work in today, which kind of comes full circle. God's plan with my story, but I was raised on a small family farm, so I grew up with some cattle and sheep and hay and pastures, and also was part of 4-H and FFA. And looking back now, I can see I was very blessed to be raised in a community where I was part of ecology and Envirothon, and our ag agencies of Soil and Water and NRCS were very interested in youth and passionate about giving us opportunities and pouring into us. So I went to youth conservation camp at Tech in high school and environmental field school and a youth outdoors weekend every summer that our Coil Forever chapter does. So I really was an independent, curious, excited child about conservation and the environment, and saw it as a way to enjoy beauty and take care of our resources. And some of my favorite memories were kayaking on the river, or, doing forestry walks. And so just from a young age, I was, passionate and interested in that, and decided to go to Virginia Tech, where I majored in agriculture sciences and did interdisciplinary with an animal science minor and soil science minor and some ag business. And so I knew I wanted to help producers. I knew I was passionate about agriculture and wanted to help producers be better at what they do while being mindful and, taking care of our resources. So went to Virginia Tech and prayed and took advantage of opportunities to learn and grow and, broaden my perspective. And God opened and closed lots of doors where I was able to bring my gifts and passions back to my area of people that I know and love, and be able to help our community be stronger and just more sustainable, and taking great care of our resources. So that's my story. Started in Halifax and have lots of adventures and experiences, and are back here today.
And Rebekah, for people that aren't familiar with the role of an extension agent, if you could tell us what your typical day is as you work in agriculture and natural resource issues and topics.
Yeah, so being an extension agent, I share that an agent means I'm an agent of change. So I work with producers to help them be better, to work smarter, not harder, and to, be productive and also profitable and purposeful with their goals, and, taking care of their resources. So I'm a project manager of some sorts when people work together, whether it's livestock auctions or farmers markets or board meetings or grant projects. And then I work a lot individually with producers with questions they have, challenges they run into, helping them problem solve, helping connect them with what the latest research is showing for how they can be doing something, different or adapting. And so I am problem solving, working with people, troubleshooting issues, finding solutions, and getting people to work together, because when we work together, we can do a lot more than we can by ourselves, and hopefully taking better care of our environment and making agriculture more sustainable at the end of the day.
Rebekah, I know that you have been very involved with 4-H and FFA, great organizations for young people here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and all across these United States. But 4-H and FFA, there is a concerted effort in both organizations to help young people learn more about where their food comes from. And I'm curious, is there a component of that to help young people learn more about soil health?
So it depends on every community and area. There's different project books and curriculum and clubs related to special interests. So in Halifax specifically, we had master gardeners. So that's a volunteer program with Extension. And so they would help at our county fair and would help at our youth, different special projects we would do, where we would do soil sampling, we would grow plants, we would talk about, just different examples of hands-on experiences. And we were able to see, hey, I'm planting a tree, and there's a tree in my front yard that I still planted when I was 10 years old, and it's, taller than me now. And so it just depends on the community, but yes, there is curriculum and resources and speakers and field trips to help students, get hands-on experience of learning this is a seed and this is what it can grow. It can grow into flowers and food, and helping youth see that they're affected by agriculture. Everything that they eat, the clothes they wear, the fuel that they use, everything revolves back to agriculture. So I made butter. I got to weave something out of wool that did not quite go as well, but I learned about animal products, for meat and for milk, and had many just visual experiences and different, on site different experiences outside of my little comfort zone. That gave me perspective, and that's what 4-H and FFA does, is giving students connections and new experiences to try something, to learn something, and open their eyes. Because when they learn and they see it for themselves, they have that perspective. So yes, 4-H and FFA are very instrumental in the development of youth. That's their purpose, is to develop their potential and their perspectives.
And Rebekah, I had served as an extension agent for 6 years in Rockingham County, and often there'd be people that maybe they bought a new home or have maybe bought some pasture land or crop land. If they would come into your office, how would you work with them and walk with them in trying to build soil health, say if they do have some new property that they've acquired?
Yes, this is a common occurrence for me sometimes. I'll have, producers that inherited land or are retiring or buying land. And one thing I do is I usually, set up a meeting in my office, and we look at their farm map and maybe even a soil test result. If they haven't done that yet, they already have. If they haven't, we'll do that. And then I also like to do an on-site farm visit with them, and usually involve other agriculture agencies. I'm a team player, and there's other programs available, just like with Extension, that can complement them. And so I work with producers and asking questions, knowing what their goals are, what their desires are, what their plans are, because there's no one perfect answer. And then we say, okay, this is what you're given. This is, your water capacity on your farm. This is your land layout. This is the challenges maybe with slope. Maybe this is a benefit of something that's been grown before. This is something we need to look at. And so we'll look at what their goals are, and then we'll adjust, their soil, we'll adjust their pasture management, their stocking rate, fencing system, we'll adjust, and we'll make decisions according to their goals. And so soil fertility is always part of my conversation. Sometimes people just want to skip it and get excited and get the cows and plant the crops. But I tell them, soil fertility is not something we can skip over, because it's what fuels the growth. It's what fuels the nutrition. It's what fuels your success and profitability. So we have to take time in the beginning to make sure that our soil is healthy, so that everything else can thrive. It's very important. It's not maybe the urgent thing in the very beginning to some people, but it is important. And if we don't take care of our soil fertility, it will become an urgent, bigger problem later.
And Rebecca, we also know that soil health is very local and place-based and contextual. And if you could tell us a little bit more about agriculture and natural resources in the South Boston, Halifax County area.
Yes, we are at the base of the Piedmont region, so we have some rolling hills, but we also have some flatlands. We have many farms that have access to water. In Halifax, we are pretty diverse. We're about 840 square miles, so we have really clay soils in the southern end of the county near Virginia, and then other types of soil, in other parts of the county. But historically, too, a generation or two ago, almost every single person grew tobacco. And so we have many people that was their main type of commodity or their primary crop. And so over time, tobacco is less populated in terms of number of producers that are grazing it, and we have people more diversifying. And so that adds a challenge where we have people that maybe they were really diversified and are growing lots of crops. And so when one thing is harvested, they're on to the next thing, they're on to the next thing. And so they're not always able to have that margin of time to look at their soil fertility and rebuild soil and replenish the nutrients that have been lost. And so that's a challenge. I work with producers if they have cattle and crops, if they inherited land, because even if you inherit or buy land, you're inheriting the benefits or challenges of the soil that you come into. And so we need to take time to study that and learn about that, because the past also influences your present and also the future of what your goals and the agriculture that you're being part of.
We're talking today with Rebekah Slabach with Virginia Cooperative Extension in Halifax County, southeast of Lynchburg. And Rebekah, I'm wondering if you can share any stories, maybe without naming names if you prefer, but that's fine. Any specific stories of farmers in your region that have done specific things to improve soil health?
Yes, I have a few different specific examples I'll share. One of my mentors when I was growing up, and one of our foremost grazing livestock experts, is Mike McDowell, and he was the Virginia Farmer of the Year and also the Southeastern Farmer of the Year in 2019. And he is a farmer that I went to his farm as a youth for practices for soil judging or water quality, and he has still expanded and is still making changes and adjustments with his livestock operation. But seeing him intentionally manage his stocking rate and rotation system for livestock, he is not concerned with getting the most cattle on the pasture. A lot of times in agriculture, we think more is better, but that's not the case with soil health. We need to be purposeful with the soil and space and nutrition that we have. And so he's a producer that I know has been a great example and has also been a mentor with other younger farmers. There's a young family next to them that have cattle and sheep now that he's also been able to be an encouragement with, and I've also worked with as a new farmer. And then also the past few years, we've had a lot of weather challenges in Halifax that I've worked with producers with. We've had Hurricane Michael that caused a lot of devastation, a lot of flooding, a lot of trees down, a lot of fencing devastation. And then we've also had, many different types of drought conditions. And so there's another producer in Scottsburg that I've worked with who, purchased new land kind of in the middle of a lot of weather challenges as well. And working with him, he's run into a lot of compaction issues where the soil, the top few inches were good, but he hit a lot of heavy compaction issues. And the soil wasn't always covered. And so when Hurricane Michael came through, he, a lot of the top few inches just washed away, and he lost a lot of that fertile, soil at the very top. And so I worked with him on doing cover cropping, and we did a research plot with him with a soil health coalition, and looked at different types of cover crops for him. And we did some custom mixes for compaction issues for new cropland. And so, it's a pleasure working with these producers with the different challenges they have. But the weather impacts adds another grenade to producers, because if soil fertility is not a priority now, then when you hit devastation later, it's gonna magnify it. And so I work with producers, with what their goals are again, and then also what their challenges they're trying to do. So sometimes it's stocking rate, sometimes it's compaction, sometimes it's planting a new crop. Sometimes it's restoring soil from what was grown before. I have lots more stories.
Well, Rebekah, it's also point out sort of the importance of listening to people's objectives and also observing what's happening on the landscape. And with the research and demonstrations that you've done, what have you been sort of learning and observing?
Yes, I mean, listening to producers is one of my giftings and my passions. I think if we take more time in the beginning to listen, it saves us a lot of time and frustration later. I've also seen that a lot of times what seems like is noisy or breaking or urgent is what gets attention. And producers, have a tendency, they get rewarded or they see the instant yields and what seems to be productives and goals, but that there's an opportunity cost to everything, and that soil health is an investment. It has long-term benefits that will save them time and stress and sanity. And so, there's that temptation to focus on what's the next thing is or what's urgent, but we need to take care of what's important too. And soil health is something that if you neglect over time, it's going to become an urgent problem. And I also tell producers, doing a soil test and caring about your soil health is also like taking care of yourself as a human. It's healthy and good to get, blood work done every year and go to the doctor. None of us are invincible. None of us, are protected from stress and worry and just natural health causes. And so getting a soil test done is just like getting a health check for yourself as a person. It tells you what's healthy, what's off, what's low, what's something you need to adjust in your lifestyle, your diet. And so it's just like your soil test. We're seeing how healthy your soil is, what we need to adjust so that it can thrive, so that the crops and the food we raise reach their potential. And so no one is invincible, just like us humans. We take care of ourselves so that we can thrive. And the same thing with our soil health. We have to take care of it because it's what fuels everything else and helps us raise the most healthy crops. And many producers, I say, you can buy the most expensive seed, the most state-of-the-art research, genetics, but if your soil pH is not good, if your soil fertility is off, it does not matter. You just wasted a lot of money and time. And so focusing them on their soil fertility, you have to have that purposeful and healthy so that you can, raise your cattle, your sheep, your goats, your soybeans, your produce. And so helping producers have that mindset, we can't ever skip that. We can't guess, and we can't just push it off to the side, because our health is important, and your soil fertility is what gives everything else that purpose.
Our guest on this episode of For the Soil, a Conversation has been Rebekah Slabach with Virginia Cooperative Extension. And Rebekah, I just want to take a moment to say thank you for everything that you do for the entire community around Halifax County. And thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and it was a pleasure to share with you all.
And Dr. Benfeld, we'll catch you in the next one.
Yes, thank you, Jeff, and thank you so much, Rebekah.
For the Soil, a Conversation is made possible with funding support from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Agua Fund. Other partners include the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, Virginia Cooperative Extension, Virginia State University, Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, and partners of the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. Views expressed on this podcast are those of each individual guest. To download a copy of this or any other episode, visit the website forthesoil.org. If you should have a specific question about soil health, call your local extension office, your local USDA service center, or a soil and water conservation district office. Music used during today's program was provided courtesy of Mr. Ruiz. All rights reserved. For the Soil, a Conversation is produced by On the Farm Radio in collaboration with Virginia Tech. I'm your host, Jeff Ishii.